just as the Senate Judiciary Committee releases thousands of pages of transcripts on the 2016 Trump Tower meeting and interviews about them, the Senate Intelligence Committee has just finished its report on Russian interference in the 2016 election. And what's pretty interesting is that their findings do not at all match those of their counterparts in the House. I want to turn now to CNN senior congressional correspondent Manu Raju. He's on Capitol Hill. The conclusions couldn't be more different from the Senate Intelligence Committee compared to the House Intelligence Committee, both Republican-led, Manu.
Yeah, that's right. The leaders of the Senate Intelligence Committee say that the intelligence community's assessment from 2017 that Vladimir Putin orchestrated a cyber campaign with the intention of helping Donald Trump win the presidency is accurate. At least that's the view of several Republicans on the Senate Intelligence Committee, some very influential ones as well. Now, Senator Richard Burr, the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, put out a statement after hearing with several former Obama officials about how this assessment was put together. And Burr said this in his statement: committee staff have spent 14 months reviewing the sources, tradecraft, and analytic work, and we see no reason to dispute the conclusions. Now, that's different than what the House Intelligence Committee Republicans said. They said the analytics behind this assessment were off. They believe the intelligence agencies did not do a good job in evaluating this, and they ultimately disputed the assertion that Putin was trying to help Trump win. But not just Burr agrees with the intelligence community over the House Republicans. Other influential Senate Republicans do as well. Senator John Cornyn, who sits on the committee, the number 2 in the overall chamber, told me by and large that assessment is accurate, as well as Senator James Lankford, a Republican who sits on the committee, said it was accurate, as well as the Maine moderate Susan Collins, who also sits on the Senate Intelligence Committee. Now, we'll wait to see the details of the Senate Intelligence Committee's report. Senator Burr told me that expect that to come out. He wouldn't get into more details until that report comes out to actually explain how they came to their conclusions. But the big headline today, breaking with the House Intelligence Committee's findings, showing that the Republicans on that panel are more isolated in their assertion that it was not Putin's intention to help Trump win the presidency, Brianna.
All right, Manu Raju, thank you.
The U.S. Senate Intelligence Committee has just released its report on Russian interference in the 2016 presidential elections here in the United States, and the assessment from the U.S. Intelligence Community. Committee Chairman Richard Burr says this, and remember, he's a Republican, and I'm quoting him now: "There is no doubt Russia undertook an unprecedented effort to interfere with our 2016 elections." Senator Mark Warner, by the way, the vice chairman of the Intelligence Committee, said the interference was directly ordered by President Putin in order to help Donald Trump. That's the conclusion of the Senate Intelligence Committee. Joining us now from Capitol Hill, New York Congressman Gregory Meeks. He's a Democratic member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. So, Congressman, thanks so much for joining us. What do you think of that conclusion? Are you surprised that the Democrats and the Republican majority on the Senate Intelligence Committee have now reached the same conclusion?
Well, I think that that's the way it should be, Wolf. You know, you review the evidence and all of the facts in our intelligence community, and you come up with what the results are. And I think that the results are what we suspected all along, and as indicated by our intelligence agencies, that Russia did, in fact, get involved in the election with the intent on helping Donald Trump. And so it is important for that to be known, so that we can make sure that in any future election that we won't allow anyone to get involved with our democracy and in our elections. And I think that it was important that it be bipartisan, unlike, unfortunately, seems to be taking place on the House side. So I think it's a good decision, that an outcome, but it shows that we've got to work together to protect the integrity of our democracy and our political process.
We were just showing our viewers some live pictures of the president saying goodbye to the Uzbek leader. They had some meetings in the Oval Office. So the president walked him out to the driveway over there outside the West Wing of the White House. The president didn't answer reporters' questions, or normally the reporters clearly shouting questions There's a lot going on right now, Congressman, and I know the White House isn't going to be pleased with this conclusion from the Senate Intelligence Committee. Bipartisan agreement that Russia interfered in the U.S. presidential election. Bipartisan agreement that they interfered in order to help Donald Trump and to hurt Hillary Clinton. This was the conclusion of the U.S. Intelligence Committee community, I should say, in January of last year, before the president was sworn into an office on Inauguration Day. So they're not going to be very happy with this conclusion. And as you correctly point out, very different from what we heard from the Republican majority in the House Intelligence Committee. Let's go to North Korea right now. While I have you, Congressman, you're on the Foreign Affairs Committee. Would you be more surprised now if the June 12th summit between the president and Kim Jong-un happens, or if it falls apart?
Well, you know what? I always thought that there was going to, this is difficult stuff, Wolf. The president likes to portray it as though it's elementary, it's simple, he can do something that no one else did. It's always difficult. And I never heard, and I said it over and over again, what does the North Koreans expect to get out of this agreement? So I was hoping that we would understand what the administration's plan was, what the back and forth was. You know, generally in the past, I've had that opportunity being on the committee. We would have access to certain information which we don't have access to now, so that we would not be engaged in a reality TV show with the two sides there with no real plan and not understanding what was really being negotiated. So I don't think anyone really knows what's taking place at this point because of the erratic or lack of a real policy that the president has articulated, whether it's in the Koreas or any place else for that matter. And that's what is a problem. Generally, you know, you have a real and explicit policy that's articulated that our allies and everyone else can understand. With this administration, there is no policy, there's no plan. There's no plan, you know, A or B. You know, you could talk about North Korea, you could talk about Iran, you could talk about climate. There's no plan that this president or policy that this president seems to be following.
Congressman Gregory Meeks, thanks so much for joining us.
Good to be with you.